Hello, and welcome back. Today, I'm going to talk about how to science, more or less. I'm going to start by talking about something my spouse refers to me as. She calls me Science Man. Now, she does stand up comedy, so there's probably a bit in there somewhere that I don't know about. Anyway, let's take a look at that. Science Man. So I bet you're thinking, bet I know more about stuff than he does. And I guarantee you do, probably. I'm sure there's things I've forgotten or I never learned. This whole process, all of science, is deeply involved with things that you don't know. Because doing science is not only about knowing. There are some of the favorites in molecular biology and biochemistry. Infamous, you might even say. But doing science is about knowing how to be wrong. Knowing how to be wrong is hard at first. And when you enter a science graduate program, that's one of the first things you have to learn to let go, is being afraid of being wrong. Now, why? Why do we not want to be wrong? There's the biology, sociology, all this other fun stuff. We can talk about, group dynamics and a lot of things. But when we come down to it here and now, why is being wrong difficult? Because for a minimum of, if you've graduated high school, upwards of, 12 years, kindergarten, you were kind of allowed to, do stuff, right? You weren't given grades or anything. But through at least 12 years, if you're in the U.S. and you graduated high school, when you're wrong, you get a different grade. You get punished. It's kind of punitive. Your knowledge didn't measure up. As you can see here from this example, PChem 2, I can say I passed it, and that's the best I got, right? And that's hard, right? It's hard to go from that to going to thinking about, now I want to try something new that's never been done before. And when you try that, you will be wrong. If you're trying hard enough, if you're really pushing back the boundaries of human knowledge, you're going to be wrong about some things. And here's an example where I tried to make a super soft gel for gel electrophoresis inside of a thicker gel, because I was trying to separate out these two different sizes of big pieces of DNA. Those were the chromosomes from this one bacteria. And this didn't work. It got a little melty later on too, because that just is not enough thickness of a gel to really do stuff with. And over here, I use so many primers doing these PCRs trying to make something happen that really wasn't going to happen ever. But I took a chance, and you have to be able to take a chance. Because you're trying to answer a question, you're trying to do a thing that no one has done before, or that they've tried to answer and you have a different answer. And, you're the one investigating. You're going to be the expert in that particular item. Now, it doesn't matter if only a dozen people in the world will care, because you're going to be working at a little tiny nubbin trying to push out the great circle of the sum of human knowledge. But you are the expert, and maybe a lot of other people don't care exactly. Because most people won't, honestly, right? Except when you're pretty sure you got something right that you tried, and you're ready to tell other people about it. You're ready to report your findings. And that's where peer review comes in. So getting into science, first you have to let go of the idea that being wrong is terrible. Because to really do new things, you're going to be wrong. But then you have to adjust to the idea that other people are going to criticize your work, and they're going to criticize it pretty harshly because it's not theirs, personally. So here's an excerpt from the book Judgment Day, Science of Discworld, book 4. And it really speaks to what I'm talking about here. Science is consciously and deliberately universe-centered rather than humanocentric. That is what the scientific method is about. It is like that because the pioneers of science understood the tricks that the human mind used to convince itself that wants to be true is true, and took steps to combat them, rather than promoting them or exploiting them. There is a common misconception of the scientific method in which it is argued that there is no such thing because specific scientists stuck to their guns despite apparent contrary evidence. So science is just another belief system, right? Now you're going to find a bunch of people out there, especially if they believe in things like flat earth, that will say it's the scientism or the church of scientism. Not entirely. The mistake is to focus on the conservatism and arrogance of individuals who often fail to conform to the scientific ideal. When they turn out to have been right all along, we hail them as maverick geniuses. When they don't, we forget their views and move on. And that's how the real scientific method works. All the other scientists keep individuals in check. And you'll note that with all the doomsday prophecies that people come up with and talk about, they only have to be right one time, and then everyone will accept they were right forever. But all the times in between, they're continually wrong, but we forget that. The beauty of this setup is that it would work even if no individual operated according to the ideal model of dispassionate science. Each scientist could have personal biases. Indeed, it seems likely that they do. And the scientific process would still follow a universe-centered trajectory. And yes, we do. We do all have our own biases. And we do get attached to our work because we're human people. When a scientist proposes a new theory, a new idea, other scientists seldom rush to congratulate him or her for such a wonderful thought. Instead, they try very hard to shoot it down. Usually, the scientist proposing the idea has already done the same thing. It's much better to catch the flaw yourself before publication than to risk public humiliation when someone else notices it. Now, you're most likely going to be working in some kind of a collaborative environment, especially when you go in as a student. You'll be either you're doing rotations or you'll be handed a project to work on under supervision. You'll have peers in your lab that will help you. You'll present your work to them and to each other back and forth so you can talk about it before reaching out to publish things. That way, anything that you might be embarrassed by, because again, it's really hard to overcome the idea that being wrong is okay. You try really hard to overcome that, but at least you can do that in the environment of, people that you at least get along with, hopefully. In short, you can be objective about what everyone else is doing, even if you are subjective about your own work. So it is not the actions of particular individuals that produce something close to the textbook scientific method. It is the overall activity of the whole community of scientists, where the emphasis is on spotting mistakes and trying to find something better. It takes only one bright scientist to notice a mistaken assumption. A PhD student can prove a Nobel Prize winner wrong. And there are examples of that with with Nobel Prize winners who have gone on to make some claims that are not scientifically grounded. And I'm not going to run down a list right now because I'm going to try to stay under 10 minutes in this video. But we don't focus on the individual in science. That's the appeal to authority fallacy. We focus on the work and the evidence supporting that work. And as new evidence emerges, we can cast aside older ideas. So it's not static, it's dynamic. So basically, doing science requires, starting out, you have to learn how to be wrong. This will help you to try new things that were never done before. And then learning how to make sure you're right, to be sure what you found is as true as can be. There's also value in a certain amount of naivete or ignorance about some established protocols, so you can approach things with a new perspective. So yeah, that's basically Science Man. Ta-da! Thanks for watching.